Sydney property, it is really hard sometimes. We're going to talk about prices, price guides. Do you put them on? Do you put them on as a seller? And how does that affect the buyer? Over to you, Mr. Bergio.
Good morning. Episode 449, price guide versus no price guide. What do we, first of all, Mark and I will explain potentially why there's no price guide on a property from a seller's point of view, and some tips and strategies if you're looking to list your property and you're not sure if you should put a price guide on it, but also some feedback we get from buyers when they see a listing and there's no price guide on it. What are some of the comments they say? Mark, over to you. Explain why, first of all, what's the difference between a guide and a price?
All right, so when you see it on realestate.com.au, when you see it on domain.com.au, when you see it on the agent's website, I guess as a consumer, you see the photos, you see bedrooms, bathrooms, and the next thing you think is, see the address, the next thing you think is, what is the price? Now, when you see auction, it's like blah, 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 blah. When you see a price, an advertised for sale price, it's a bit of a win there. You're like, okay, now I know if I can afford this, if I cannot afford this, and what am I going to do? If there's no price, you generally, and you're still keen, you think, okay, well, I've got to call the real estate agent. You call the agent or you email the agent. Are you going to connect with that agent and get the information straight away?
Yeah, and I find sometimes there's strategy not to put a price on a listing, but I can tell you the feedback from buyers it's pretty annoying and shit not to have a price guide on the property. And the reason is a lot of buyers, they just don't know. They're looking at property, especially if they're just coming into the market. They're looking at a unit and they'll see, like, let's say they go through sold properties. They see one sell for 600K, then one sell for 800K, and they're like, whoa, they look very similar. They may not know one's on the eastern side, closer to the water, one's on the western side, and that has a big stigma. They may not know that block is premium compared to another block. A lot of buyers, Mark, they feel a little bit insecure that they don't want to feel stupid if they call an agent and be like, I'm interested in that property. What's the guy? And the agent's like 800. And like, I had a budget of 600. And like, well, why'd you call for this one? This is the best property. So
sometimes that's embarrassing for the poor buyer as well. Like, it's like, do you know what I mean?
100%. 100%. So that's why I know we always like to put a price guide on the property, really help people out. Because put it this way, look at it like if you're going through car sales, the old mentality, I think, of all marketing 20 years ago plus was give little information and make them call you so you can capture their contact details and always be able to be in contact with them. That with technology and access to information, that's really shifted. Consumers will rarely tolerate no information given or little information given. I know when I'm looking through car sales.
You know what the worst is, Burge?
What?
You know when someone goes, so how much is this? And then the salesperson goes, well, you tell me.
Oh.
It's like,
yeah. And so very little, like if you look at yourself going through car sales, if you're scrolling right, you're scrolling through and then there's an ad, even if you like the car, but no price, no property description, and you're just like, next, like, I'm not going to call them. People want to be able to vet the information before them, which, yes, does mean agents won't get their contact details initially. But it means when the buyer does call you, they've looked at the price and they believe it's in their budget. They're qualifying themselves so much these days.
Photos.
Yeah. But talk us through maybe, Mark, why an agent wouldn't put a price on. Maybe if they're not too sure where the price is, they're like, the market could say this is 600 or it could be 800. It's a phenomenal, rare property. Let's just get a couple people through, like a genuine, we want to see the feedback because we don't want to put a price on and be 100 grand too much.
Well, look, our regulators, Fair Trading, love insists that we must be within 10% of what we advertise. So if we're putting $1 million price on something, the expectation of 1 is in line. So the reason people would not, and don't, and make no mistake, agents are, it's very powerful how much of an influence an agent can have over this when they've been awarded the selling of a property. So a client will come to that agent for guidance, for advice, and say, look, what should I do? Should I do auction? Should I put no price? Should I put a price? So it's generally the agent's professionalism and guidance, whether there's going to be a price put on the property or not. The reason an agent would not put a price on the property, probably sounds a bit bad, is one, to generate a shitload of inquiry early. I'm not a fan of that. Two would be they are not really sure exactly where the value is, and they're putting it out there in the ether, putting it out there to the market to say, look, guys, where are you with price? Let us know. We'll let the owners know and see if we've got a sale here. So it's that's probably the biggest reason for not putting a price on a place.
It is, and it's genuine. So you look at it this way, Mark. If you had to choose put a price that's too high and have one person through the open home, or put no price on it, potentially get more people through. Yes, they may be unqualified because you may capture buyers who are looking at 600K and some that are looking at 800K, but at least you're going to have the real most accurate feedback from buyers. And then I like to see a price go on the week after. If you do that, because buyers will understand, but then if they see your next listing and the price still off after a couple of weeks and every listing sort of like that, they're like, no, you're just talking shit basically. But because we do work for the vendors, but we don't want to piss buyers off because that's not going to help anyone. But that's about a 50-50 call. It's because some buyers are, well, what are you...
Would you say the person's not a serious seller when you see no guide on there? Would you say they're just
so on some occasion, yeah, okay. So you gave the two examples of why there's no price on it. The third one is the owner wants way more than what it's worth. So that agent doesn't want to put the price on it because they don't want to be guiding 700 if it's worth 700 and the owner says, I want 900. So sometimes that does indicate that the owner's expectation is way high and they're not serious.
So if I'm a buyer and I see no price, what would you do? What's the advice from a pro?
I would look at days on market. It may give you a feel for where it is. Because if it's in the first week...
Where would a buyer find that?
Good question. I'm pretty sure realestate.com tracks it maybe, or it says the date it was listed, or it may only be the date it was most updated. I'm not sure on that. But at the end,
I'm a buyer and I see no price. What's the attitude there? It's like, first of all, from a buyer, it's like, oh shit. But how would you advise them to take it from there?
I would do more research before I would call the agent. I would first think, oh shit, no price. Owner either wants too much money, they're not confident where the market is for this property, it may be a little bit unique, or the agent's just annoying. So I just think through that. And if the owner wants too much, you're not going to know until you find out and call, and you may just put a bit of a loose offer in to get a counter to see where it's at. That's a really good one to weed that one out. You don't want to be looking at it for a week and then you put your offer in and then it's way over. You're like, just no price, put an offer in real quick, see where it comes back. If it's the first week of feedback, fair enough. Hopefully the agent will tell you after a week where offers have been in, or once again, put an offer in, see where it's at, or just shoot. And then what was the other one? The agent just doesn't like displaying the price, which is annoying. Just give them a call. But I really think have a look in the street.
So that's a buyer perspective. I love a good old-fashioned phone call as well, just to the agent to feel it out. As a seller, what's your advice on no price? Like, this is someone who hasn't even come across a real estate agent yet and got advice. where would you go with that? Me personally, I probably wouldn't go there. I'd probably rip a price onto it and get the feedback from people if I wasn't doing auction rather than doing nothing.
100%.
What would you do?
I would tell the
advice?
vendor properties with prices on them generate more inquiries and better leads, but it has to be a conservative price, and it has to be in line with the market. You don't want to it's the opposite to what you want to do. We don't want to start high and end low. We want to start low and high. So it takes a bit of conditioning. If the owner doesn't see it that way and they're very firm, even show a lot more examples, but I'd rather no price than a high price. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Could be there is a chance it's an overpriced property if there's no price on it.
Yeah, and sometimes
when you go there, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and put it this way, sometimes by putting no price on it, you will get unqualified leads, but you will get the genuine buyer feedback of, that's not worth 900, that's the 700. Then you go to the owner, it's not worth 700. But if you put 900 on it, you won't get a call. You won't get anyone at the open. So therefore, and then the owner thinks, oh, you're just a shit agent. No one's telling me it's overpriced. You've had no feedback. Yeah. And you're like, the no action is no feedback, but they don't believe that a lot of the time. So that's why I'd rather no price on that occasion.
So that is price guide versus no price guide when selling property in Sydney, Australia. There's a bit of advice from two pros.
Yeah,
and sorry about my soccer dad attire today.
No problem. And that was from both perspectives, a buyer and seller. We're so diplomatic. We're good. All righty, everyone. Enjoy your Saturday. Talk soon.
See you guys. Have a beautiful day. Hopefully we helped you out there. Share this with someone you know can help. Okay, mate.
Bye.
Thanks, bud.